Yeah.
Bev, would you like to start the meeting while I work, see if I can figure out this camera?
Okay, I can do that. Just a minute. Let me pull up an agenda. Just a second. Okay, so, whoops, wrong month. Just a second. There we go. Okay, first of all, those of, oh, geez. Okay. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Does anybody have corrections on that? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Somebody?
I can't or I would, Beth.
I'll make a motion, Amanda.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. Okay, is there a second to that? Did we approve them?
I second that.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor, would you give me a thumbs up? I can't see all of you, but I need to see thumbs up or some sort of a indication that you're okay with that. Okay, I see several thumbs. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, those are approved. Blake's going to be leading the meeting once he gets hooked up here. One of the things I do want to correct is make sure you guys are aware of is on John's presentation last time. He talking about the ELD students that are at the elementary school. And there are 68 of them, not 51 like you reported. For some reason, the 17 kindergartners weren't reported. So it runs about 18% of the population he has there. Most of them are in primary, are K1, 2. So I wanted to make you guys aware of that part. Just want to review that that our charges are to review the academic progress and growth throughout the district, strengthen school and family and community engagement to provide meaningful and continuous professional learning experiences, ensure educational excellence for every student through a curriculum that meets our ends and supports our global outcomes, continued review of the unified improvement plans and school improvement plans. And our mission, the DAAC mission, is stakeholders advise and hold Estes Park School District accountable in terms of their mission, vision, and goals. And our vision is if our mission, if we accomplish that, if we actually accomplish that, then our diverse community works with the district to ensure that all our students graduate with the knowledge, skills, and experience needed to be successful and responsible citizens. So I just wanted to just kind of refresh your memory on that. Okay, so Sheldon, are you ready to go on this?
Sure.
Okay, so our topic is the mid-year budget review and update, and he's also going to update us on ESSER, because if you remember from the last meeting, they were expecting some information on that, and also to update us on the elementary school CDE request to be reconsidered their SPF. So those things will be, oh God, those things will be addressed.
Yeah, a lot of acronyms here.
Yeah.
Through.
And while you're mentioning that, be sure to look, you guys, on the very end of the agendas that I send you is a lexicon of very commonly used abbreviations and terms that you find that we'll be talking about. So feel free to scroll down on that and see that lexicon. It can be helpful for those of you that are not used to our education jargon. So, okay, Sheldon.
Can I just ask one question? On the file I got yesterday, it was cut off again in the PDF. So if I go back to the Word file you sent in November, is that, I don't know if other people had a cutoff issue on their PDF, but
That's what I understand. And the reason I've been sending a PDF is because when I have in the past, when I've sent the document, just the regular document, the spacing and all that stuff gets really wonky, and the PDF, but I'm not sure why it's cutting it off. So I'll get that, figure out what's going on that and get that fixed to you and to you guys. Okay.
But if we just look at that Word file from November, is that the right thing we're looking at?
We adjust it periodically, but it's fairly accurate. Let's put it. Yeah. And I'll get that fixed. So thank you. That was brought to my attention about an hour ago. So we'll get that fixed to you guys. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Sheldon, why don't you go for it here?
Sure. So in the middle of the year right now, and I'm kind of going to blend these together a little bit between our budget and ESSER and everything else, because they're so highly connected and crisscross over, and just kind of update with that. So our board goals kind of go into different ways. The board have goals on what they're going to do, and then with the superintendent's goals mixed with the board goals, we have some things that we had for focus for this year and really last year as well. So I'm going to kind of blend those together. Of course, our first goal, my goal as superintendent, and also included in the board goal, is achievement of all of our students, an achievement gap and cultural linguistic diverse students, making sure that we continue to look at ways to support all of our students. And then looking back and seeing if our budget reflects that. And that budget can be used, and that's why I bring up some of the ESSER money as well, in a lot of different, where the money comes from. But the bottom line is we need to support our students. And so if we look at some of the things that we've done and been a focus area for us, we have, of course, done a lot of PD in the last 3 years, and including all students, and doing really work that's good for all students, but also significantly helps our gap group students, our cultural linguistic diverse students as well. And that includes culturally responsive teaching, problem-based learning, global outcomes. All those are good professional development areas that help all of our students. And so we have also increased significantly our support for our ELD students. We have this year increased our ELD teachers by 2 FTE using a combination of district and ESSER 2 funds. We'd like to continue that with ESSER 3 funds as well. We also, especially with the increase of COVID and remote learning and everything last year, we also increased our cultural liaisons, one for each building as well, which we did. We only had one person for the whole district. Now we have the person for the district as well as one for each building to make connections and work on problem solving and communication with all of our students. And connect with tutoring and learning place and everything else. We've also developed a ELD plan and worked with CDE and worked with them a couple of days to develop a long-term ELD plan with a rubric set out by CDE to meet the qualifications, and made some adjustments from there. And that was part of the including increased numbers of ELD teachers. And then we also have reviewed our curriculum. We bought curriculum a couple of years ago. We found some gaps in that, and we've increased our curriculum, especially in pre-K 2. And we're also getting supplemental material for all grade levels and increasing our curriculum all the way through with our ELD students. So we really have put our money where our mouth is, and really have both used ESSER funds and our own funds, and we'll continue to look at ways to meet the goals of all of our students. Along with that, I think that we also have created more tutoring opportunities for all students, including our ELD students. We've also increased our summer school opportunities in all 3 buildings significantly. And again, some of that with our own funds, some of that with ESSER funds, and we'll continue looking for those opportunities as well. So as far as our budget being meeting our goals in that, we have significantly increased our budget and used our resources to support that goal. Anyone have any questions on that one? Second one is academic
sorry.
rigor. Oh, excuse me.
It's late. I'm so sorry. I was slow on the button.
No, you're fine.
Can you tell me a little bit about the tutoring and how is that out of ESSER funds, or who's paying for that and who's eligible for that? And is that with the learning place or someplace else?
It's a combination of things wherever we can get quality tutoring. We've always had money set aside for tutoring, especially in the secondary levels, and it's used to different levels with different groups. We have increased that number, and we do use Learning Place. We use our own staff have been staying after school and getting paid to tutor as well. And we've also helped with combination of some other groups, Reading Corps, Boys and Girls Club, their literacy program as well, and combined on some things on tutoring in those areas as well. So that is the main thing, and then connected with our summer school programs as well. But primarily right now, it's our own staff and the Learning Place.
Do you know, kind of drilling down a little bit, do you know the specifics? How are people referred? Is it going to be a self-referral? Hey, I need some extra help with this. And
yeah, it's both teacher, self-referral, parent request. We try to meet the needs as best we can. Of course, students are struggling. And if we can hook up the schedules and look up what we can do, we try to do that. Again, with more staffing, we could probably do more. That's some of the problem with it. It is limited to a certain degree, but we have expanded it significantly.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, but it is open. Our counselors, of course, are very aware, and we have kids. We have in GED programs, even in and outside of school. There's a lot of different facets to it.
Just depends. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? The second area is performance assessment and global outcomes. We are working on this. We're creating resources. We're doing some more performance-based. Last year, the high school worked on performance-based tests for their classes for finals and that kind of stuff. We do plan to work on more and more community involvement in this, of what is exactly defines what a global outcome is, what is communication for a 12th grader versus a kindergartner, and so on. We still want to do that. COVID keeps kind of keeping us from going to the extent that we want to do with that, with our staffing and our time, as well as being able to have meetings and have good conversations and long things with that. We continue to do training on it, PD and so on with that, but it has been a big goal of ours to really do some two-way communication. I'm working with a group to help us try to design some of that. We have created problem-based learning as a focus for some of our PD, as well as we've hired 2 teachers that are working in problem-based in the high school to give students an alternate way to meet their graduation requirements, especially, and then in the summer we use that as credit recovery. We found out that online credit recovery probably wasn't the best, but engaged, problem-based, multi curricular activities worked out really well for us. And so we want to keep expanding those opportunities. So that's probably the biggest way there, is to really get our teachers using it, co-teaching, doing some things with problem-based. And there's some more work to do there, but we have investigated in PD and some people that are experts in it that are utilizing it right now in our buildings. So the third one is social emotional wellness. We have been increasing our numbers of support in that as well over the last few years. Again, money where our mouth is. We've added an extra counselor in the high school. We've added a social worker, which and mental health support for the district. We're still looking for opportunities. That's one thing that we did hire one person last year to help us with mental health. It didn't work out because of some state regulations. We will continue to look at trying to hire someone this spring even. We have the money to probably do that because we've been able to write grants with Larimer County mental health to pay for the person we have now. So now we can add another person as well. And that's been ongoing money. So again, we're looking at ways to expand that. We have, because of higher needs in our elementary, we're finding after COVID that we have some behavioral issues that have increased, and some high needs kids. And we had a part-time person that we used to write our behavior plans. It was hired on a contract level, but we needed a lot more help than that. So we had to hire a full-time. We would have to do that whether we have ESSER dollars or not. They're now writing and helping with some of those plans, and are an expert in that field, as well as other special ed support, not only behavioral, but just more people on the ground, because we're seeing increased numbers and increased behaviors. In a small school, that's always the case. I mean, one or two kids can completely change whatever you do in a district, because we don't have like whole programs that can just absorb it. And if we have one or two kids, we can have to dedicate whole people to that one or two people, which we need to do at any time, whether COVID, not COVID, ESSER or not ESSER, and we always do that. But we have seen an increase and have had to increase our special ed, which we have in the past as well. Several years ago, we had to add a couple people for support in those areas. And we'll just make sure that if we can find the staff, to make sure we're meeting the needs of that, and always be flexible in that case. We will probably be able to use ESSER funds to pay for some of that. In the past, we just have to eat that. Or there is another way that we put into what we call high needs reimbursable. And we have put in for high needs reimbursable the last, 8 years, honestly. And we get usually about 80% of that. So if we have something special that's out of the thing, we can apply for the state to get reimbursed for that. And we've been pretty fortunate in getting most of that money back. So we kind of balance all those things and just make sure that the kids have what they need. So, like I say, we have to do that no matter what the funding source is. It's nice when you have the funding source to support it.
Hey, Sheldon, related, sorry, me again. Related to that, social emotional learning is very dear to my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And there was mention at the board meeting last time about a need, a couple of things, to develop a SEL curriculum.
Right. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah.
That more so I'm interested in versus behavioral needs and behavioral plans developed by a psychologist, more so of a general kind of global, as fitting with the global outcomes, more of a global overview of social emotional learning. And I'd really like more information, more detail when you have it about specifically that curriculum, because of course, right, all of the outcomes are they're subjective. What is that being based on? What's the curriculum being based on? How is that being developed? Is that something that you could? Is it an off the shelf?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually appreciate you bringing that up, because our social emotional team, and as you know, we've had a lot of turnover within that group. So they've asked that we, which we can use ESSER funds to use to work on that curriculum. So I would say right now, I mean, we've been using the CASEL standards and trying to blend in the CASEL standards, right, with that. But we really want to look in and actually kind of, I don't know if we want to say start or restart or whatever we want to do with that. But we're going to, I'm going to ask the board if we can work towards that with ESSER $3. And that would be a whole start of getting committee together, look at it over, identify. We have not picked a group. We have not decide what that is. We don't know if it should be the same for each building. We are working on CASEL standards and looking our global outcomes to those CASEL standards and then doing supplemental materials. But we, want to do a restart of all of that and do it correctly, because now we have the money to do it, and we have a team that needs to have it be theirs. So again, that was something that was sort of paused during the COVID with the curriculum piece of it.
And that is good news that you're looking at doing that and having dollars available to do that. I guess my pause at this point is that social emotional learning is continuing today. It's going on.
Right.
And I get it, right? There's a need for that. But it's kind of willy-nilly, I guess. It's depending upon who's ever running the show as to what you do.
Right.
And we had talked a few minutes ago about some data specific to that, and I'd love to see that if you have some. Or I don't know what Mary's involvement still is with that, or what, but I would. That makes me hesitate.
Right. That is a couple different things. We have some limited data, and the data was unfortunately, like you say, some of the stuff wasn't systemized. It was based on personalities, and we're trying to fix that. The other thing that my SEL team put in for is a monitoring tool, that we develop a monitoring tool to get the data, do preliminary data and so on. Like I say, it is not where we want it to be, and we definitely need to do both those things, is decide what we want, how we're going to teach it, and then how to monitor it. And we have some random stuff, but right now it is pretty well based on the individuals that we hire, and we're trying to get away from that system and systemize the system. It is definitely, and that's why it's been one of our goals for a while, and we haven't got as far as long as we wanted. So.
And it certainly can. You can tease out some data that is more objective, like with the reducing delinquency with the restorative practices, and that's that's one way to look at it. And so it sounds like that you're on it. I'd like.
Yeah, I mean, we have like restorative practices of how many kids went through that system. Of course, we can look at. We have almost zero suspensions, expulsions, those sort of things. I mean, we have that sort of data, and we've had the really good data on that for a while. When we get more into, how people are feeling or why they're not engaged in school and that kind of stuff, that is where we're a little more limited in the kind of data that we have. The increased, mental health issues, what's happening there, what's not doing that. We track the incidents, but maybe don't track the causes of the incident like we'd like to.
Right.
And then all the privacy that goes along with that is an issue as well. So we need to make sure that we do it correctly and have systems in place that are protect all the confidentiality as well. And that's kind of our goal, is to go that next level. Like say, we have the rudimentary things of absences and expulsion, suspension, discipline, and those sort of things, which we've had pretty good numbers on those sort of things. But the engagement, the increased trauma, all that kind of stuff, which is harder to measure and harder to get a hold of, we have a little more trouble getting data, and we're trying to do the research on that to find the data on that.
I'm very happy and glad that you have a clinician as part of the school system now. and can participate in that and help direct that. And it's real easy to get this wrong, I think.
Right.
And it's very difficult to do a good job and make, have some good data about what you're doing. So
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. And that's what we kind of found out. We kind of got involved in it last year pretty heavily. And then we found out that it was a lot more complicated than we expected it to be. And a lot, especially when you're talking about privacy and information and and therapy and all those sort of things. The other thing that we have done too is that we have tried to and have increased our availability to outside resources. So if parents want to, they can choose, and we try to connect them with outside resources. We do have telehealth as well that can help, and we pay for all of that. I don't know if all that's the best, but it is a resource that parents can choose to use. We don't force them to or anything like that, but we try to connect families and our students to outside resources as well. And we do have resources to help pay for those for the underinsured or the non-insured.
And I appreciate that. You identify a need and you provide resources to help remedy that. Thank you. I know that was taking up some time.
Yeah,
And I'll continue to ask about that.
please do. And like I say, and we probably lean on some, of the community's expertise on some of this, especially monitoring data and that kind of stuff, because we're very limited on who we have here to do that sort of work, and we definitely need to do it correctly, as you said. And that's like what we kind of found last year when we started getting into getting some of the programming and stuff to monitor some of this stuff. We had some concerns. So
And I think especially it's important, not just because it is, but also with the, there's a lot of focus from the district through SEL. So thank you.
sure, we could just use that therapy dog will help.
Oh, and I missed the therapy dog.
Yeah. So
That's important, and that's certainly one technique that someone can use to reach people that can't ordinarily reach.
yeah, it is definitely needs to continue to be our focus. Not only though was our focus before, but now as we're seeing the fallout of everything that's happened with and increased trauma in families and trauma with school, not being in school and in and out of school and with COVID, all those things are doubling. So it has to be a huge focus for us. And resources are hard to come by. People are hard to come by. And so we have to be very creative and on that very heavily. So.
As I recall from last year, Sheldon, I think was it Courtney? I'm not sure. Anyway, was saying that typically research shows that the trauma and fallout from like COVID and what the kids have experienced with all of that often comes later, not when you're in the middle of it. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I'm sure that people could correct me, but yeah, I mean, most trauma, whether it's, death or COVID or fires or whatever, I mean, it's usually 6 to 8 months after is when people really start internalizing it and starting to affect other things. And sometimes they don't recognize that as the trigger. And so right now, I mean, we are training all of our teachers on how to identify trauma early on and see if we can do some things with that as well. And we're working on a program there. I think some training is going on today, and we, Courtney and one of our counselors have been trained on how to institute some trauma identification training to all of our staff, and we're working on multiple things at the same time, unfortunately, but all important.
Oh, and wouldn't that be connected also to what you're seeing in the elementary school behaviors?
Possibly. I mean, I think it's a little combination of several things. I think it's a combination of sometimes you just have students that come in a small town that affect you dramatically in and out. Second is that, we have had a lot of kids that are entering kindergarten that's never been around kids before. They didn't have the same experiences in the last year and a half when they were 3 and 4 years old to be in school. And then, I think it just, there's just a lot of stress on all of us right now, and has been for a while. So some days I think I need someone full time. So
We all.
yeah. Our third, that's me one. Our fourth one was, something from the state on gifted and talented, and we did do a total gifted and talented review last summer, full 360 working with CDE. Got some great feedback, instituted some things. We got actually a great review of some of the things we're doing, but was some areas that we didn't get where we needed to go. And we did get a grant for another 0.5 teacher to monitor that progress and work through there. We feel really good about the direction we're going, and we've spent some time and money on really developing that program, as well as our ELD program and SEL. And it is, again, I'll be honest with you, with COVID this year, we did not expect to have the problems that we did. And I'll be, we're 6 to 8 people short a day in our school. And many of these people that could be working on some of this stuff are help subbing or helping us in other areas. And so it isn't going as fast as we'd like it to be for any of us. Most of us aren't working on what we want to work on, but I will say we have very good plans in place, and we're still making progress even with all the challenges that we have. But our teachers are drawn away from some of our major focuses at times, just due to trying to keep school open and keep things happening. So not making an excuse for that. That's just the reality. But we do have, like I say, we have put extra money, extra time, extra people focused towards that, plus have revamped the whole plan with accordance to best practices from the CDE. And we spent 2 or 3 days with there. And at one time, I mean, we were headed towards hopefully being sort of a model school with that. So that's sort of our goal. And we did not do well in the past, so we definitely have revamped that whole program. And I got to give Mr. Hunt and his team, Rachel Graham, huge kudos for all the work they've done in that. So, and that is the major 4 goals. Of course, we want to continue with communication, diversity, equity, inclusion. All those are always ongoing themes that we're always looking at ways to work on and develop and make sure that all of our programs meet all those criteria. So I'm sorry, but there is a lot of stuff coming out from the health department right now, and I'm getting texts like that. So I apologize for that, but I also have to have that information by tonight. So I'll be kind of distracted a little bit here. I apologize for that. I will run through, if you don't mind, sort of what we're thinking with the ESSER. I know that I asked you guys for input on the questions. We put out surveys, so I just want to share those results with you, if that's okay with everybody. It just take a few minutes and whip through those pretty quickly. And then I'll kind of tell you what I'm thinking about when I propose to the board for budget and so on. So. Can you see that, ESSER 3?
Yes.
Okay. So these first slides will be what we started with last time of what ESSER is about, S3 funding is to safely reopen the sustained safe operation of schools and address the impact of coronavirus on our students. We had ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. Right, this year we're pretty well doing with ESSER 2 for all the things that we've been doing and throughout last summer. And we plan on starting allocating probably in the next month or so on some high priorities for ESSER 3 as well. It's about $2.1 million. So we asked the survey last time, which kind of hit 5 areas. I know I don't like to use learning loss in my communications because I want to call it learning enhancements or learning improvement because, you know, there isn't always that there was learning loss, anything else, but to meet the state requirements, you've kind of got to put it in that category to start with for the ESSER, and that's what I have to develop it on. Social emotional learning, what we talked about, health and safety needs, continuous operation, and technology tools if we need it. That was what was suggested by the CDE and what qualifies for the money. We had survey results. We had 112 responses. 17 were actually returned in Spanish, and we interpreted them, which was a nice number. We had 84 parents, including staff that also had students, and then we had 18 staff members separate from that, and we had 7 students. So as far as our survey is concerned, that's a pretty good response for those surveys. Priorities from highest to lowest was learning enhancement, continuity of operations, social emotional learning, health and safety needs, and technology, which would meet sort of the things that we would have expected. I would expected social emotional would be second, but I think due to lack of staffing and subs and that kind of stuff, continuity is also important as well. It's hard to do social emotional if we don't have people here to do social emotional. So those are really close. There's only a couple points apart, as you can see. Remember that we have to use 20% for enhancement of learning. And so we want to continue our research practicing, our tutoring, our literacy program in the summer, our other summer school programs, our continued work and adapting our curriculums to students where they are at, identifying students where they are with our testing and our teacher PLCs, day-to-day activities that they do, and meet students where they are and move that learning to the personalization that we want to do. We also want to make sure that we're meeting our special population and give that behavior support like I talked about earlier. That's something that really hit us really heavy in this fall that we did not expect, and we were having trouble hiring paraprofessionals. We did increase their salary with ESSER dollars to hopefully recruit and retain more. We also give bonuses for substitutes that will come in if they'll work more than 10 days a month. All those things have been very important to us. And then I mentioned the ELD and SEL support earlier on as well. That's why these are all kind of connected. There isn't a large difference between what we are already working on and what we work on with ESSER. We just need to do it at a higher level and have more money to do it and more opportunities to do it. Continue problem-based learning opportunities. We have the 2 teachers there, after school support. There was a big push. These are actually came from comments from our families, and we've had this before, Spanish in the elementary school. We have been trying to figure out how to do that for a while. We may be able to work something out and start that program as well. That's been a big thing. Parent support for homework. Make sure that parents understand what is expected, maybe give some ideas of how to do that better. That was something. These are all actually things that came from parents in the comments, tutoring, online learning support, which again, focused on the things that we were already doing. So all these things, lower class sizes, all these different things were things that were very important to us. Continue with nursing help. Just make sure that we have the support for our students, and then create some other opportunities for them with online and maybe some Spanish in the elementary and problem-based learning, etc.
Hey, before you leave that, Sheldon, from what I remember in past years, is you guys were trying to get a Spanish teacher for the elementary and you were having trouble finding one. Is that, am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, it is really, really difficult to find Spanish teachers at any level. A lot of schools are without Spanish teachers currently, have open positions. We'll continue to look for that, but it's more about some of it is the teaching, but that's one side of it, but also make sure we have a robust programming for that all the way through, so you don't have gaps in it. We have to make sure that we're solid in the middle school, because you don't want kids ready, then not have anything to go to. So we got to kind of build it all the way down. And something that we did got to develop the curriculum with the K through 12 scope and sequence and so on. So again, I think it brings it back to a focus area for us. It's definitely on our program with our CLD group that Ruby runs, which is Cultural Linguistic Diversity Group. And we're trying to decide exactly how we could start implementing that without being another new thing and work it into our curriculum. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. I think most of these I mentioned before. Immediate needs I'm going to ask for is nursing help, someone to help us run ESSER and look at our opportunities to do that, take over for Ruby's, it's going half-time, and which doesn't have to be necessarily ESSER funds because that funds are already there. And then continuing our professional intervention and intervention supports. We also are in an audit. We're looking at our HVAC system. We have increased all of our filtering, which is a lot more expensive filter, a lot better filters. We also run our HVAC systems 24/7. They used to turn off. And now we want to exchange as much air as possible, and that's all suggestions. And so they just come out with some new HVAC kind of guidance, and we're going to do sort of audit best we can to make sure that that's working. We've had really good luck, and we move a lot of air in our schools, and we do have the higher density filters now, but we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can in that as well, and that's part of the health and continuous operations as well. Outside mental health support. Home internet connectivity, we have had pretty good luck with that. I'm actually working with a parent today on that. We will always help if the parent doesn't have that connectivity at home. There's multiple ways we can do that, but we do have that. We did last year, and I'm sure some of you remembered, we had several days we had really problems with our internet. It got to when storms came that we may lose internet for a couple of days at our school. So we've been working hard to get redundancy and to change our internet service. Over the holidays, we actually moved our internet support services to the town service. And it has continuity. It comes from both ways. So if one line comes down, the other line's still there. And we also have a backup system now that if any of them go down, which it did happen, in December at one point, it immediately took over in like 2 seconds and gave us help to do that. So that's been an important part. We didn't use ESSER funds for that, but that's still an important part for us. And actually, we've probably saved money in all those move arounds on that. So it's been a good move all the way around. Next steps, we have tentative authorization. The state has accepted our narrative and what we plan on using it for. We do have a budget that we would need to identify further and say exactly what it's for, and I will be going to the board soon with that. For this year, we don't have a lot for this year, a couple different things, a little bit in the summer, but it'll be more for continuing the services that we have, like keeping our ELD teachers for another couple years, keeping our summer programs going strong for the next couple years, looking for other grants to retain teachers, We're going to make sure that we have our SEL curriculum and SEL support for the next couple of years. If we can buy that curriculum, that's a one-time money. So that's good things if we can and do things with curriculum and those sort of things. People are a little more problematic, but a lot of these things, we've changed some things around, and so we should be able to absorb them in a few years. Plus, I think there will be more money for social emotional learning. We get more every year, and I think there's going to be some opportunities for that. We've also been able to get some of that money to not use ESSER through Larimer County Health Grant and some other things. So we have saved some actually ESSER money that we had for that and got it done in different ways. We're down administrator at a half right now, and so we have that currently in the budget, and we can work with that. We are going to have to decide what we're going to do with our remote learning academy. It depends on what they make the rules to be and how they change the rules on that. And I'll probably be coming to you with that as we go further. The rules, we worked on it actually all during the break, trying to get clarification on that because we really want some things, and they have not decided on the rules of what that'll look like in the future. We really want to keep it, but we want to make sure that we have a strong system in place, that it's always an option for our kids, COVID or no COVID, but we have to make sure that it is feasible without the leniency they've given us on it with COVID. Sounds like though that they are going to continue that leniency because it's working fairly well, and I think it is a good program if we can keep that. And then figuring out how to transition for the 24-25 school year. We have not really added staff. We've moved staff around in a lot of different places, and we just want to make sure that we're adapting to where our students are and what they need. So, and using the increased money from the state to make sure that we're institutionalize some of these things, like Blake brought up earlier, of how do we institutionalize, use this time, this money, this extra money to institutionalize our SEL program and our curriculum and what we do, because that's a lot of work. And then hopefully that's less as we go further and costs us less money. So we're trying to use this as an opportunity to build these strong systems, these strong curriculums that aren't based on individuals, but are based on systems. And then it'll be easier to transition when we don't have ESSER dollars anymore, or we have ways to access other resources outside our school to keep those programs going. And that is really that. Any questions, ideas?
So one of the things you mentioned was looking for grants to, when ESSER funds are done, to maybe help keep some teachers around. But I also know that can be a problem because grants are typically one-time money. And, but I also know that there can be some juggling around, if you get money here, sometimes that frees it up for someplace else. So with the grants that you were talking about, what types of grants were you talking about? Just things that would be temporary to get us through, to get us started on some things?
Well, I don't really know. I just, right now, I just admitted that SEL is a Estes Park problem. It is a county problem. It's a state problem. It's a national problem. And it is coming to the forefront in all those areas and becoming a focus area for all those areas. I think that there will be continued opportunities, and hopefully with line item funding, or what I'm really hoping for is line item funding for other organizations to support the school, so that we can utilize them. I come from states where county had full-time mental health facilitators in our buildings that were county trained and county run and everything else, and had the support behind them. I'm pushing our county to do that, and they have passed the money to do that. That is ongoing money. We gave them an office and worked with them and referred people to them, and then they ran that system, and then they could refer out. That was a much better system than us trying to, with one or two people trying to run a whole program. And they was able to bring in the expertise that they needed with their whole facility. So we're looking at these community based sort of things. And I'm optimistic that we can get something like that in a couple of years, that we could transfer some of this over, or they give us the money and we go ahead and do that. But there is some money for that, and I think that money will continue. And so I'm gambling to get the infrastructure in place and all the systems in place so we can utilize that to the best of our ability.
Yeah, thanks. That makes sense. I know of other states that operate similar to what you're talking about, that that they've got the ability to be able to support the schools a little differently. So,
One of the other things too is that's coming down the pike too, and we used some of our ESSER money, and I don't think we're going to end up having to use any of our ESSER money. It was kind of a backup in case it didn't work, but we expanded our preschool by a whole teacher, a whole program, right? We're going to continue to look at preschool, and as you know, the governor's #1 priority is universal preschool, and they've changed the whole department. They've blended 2 departments together. There's a lot of stuff coming down the pike with preschool and paying for preschool and daycare before preschool. And so, you know, that is something too that I think we'll get more and more support for financially and take the burden off us, and be able to absorb some of that, whether we're doing it or in combination with people or whatever that is. But that is something that I didn't want to wait for because the need is there, especially with COVID. And we pushed that, but actually we pretty well got reimbursed for most of that. And we'll see at the end of the year how that all turns out. But for the most part, things like that, I think, are the natural flow of things. Also, almost everything that we're doing with ESSER, we were already doing beforehand. We just have a little more time, a little more staff, and a little more support to be able to do it and do it right, and hopefully institutionalize it into our take that opportunity to institutionalize it into our schools in the next few years.
sounds like a plan.
It is a plan.
Yep.
Sheldon, I've got a question on the continuity of operations, and
Mhm.
I'm sorry we're here again in January.
Right.
Like, this is not where I thought we'd be having the conversation when we met last in November, but is the money from the previous ESSER rounds, which were for more immediate things, is there anything in there for like testing access or getting you the test to stay program, or things that, like, you know, where maybe a student doesn't have, you know, right now you guys have like the events complex and other stuff, but like thinking down, if this thing continues to drag out as it has been, is there money to help families get, you know, tested so they can get back in school more quickly, or is that something on the radar?
Yes, it definitely is. Several different things there, and actually even December 15th, that's where we were 100% headed, right? And then we're kind of in a new thing now. Two things is, yes, we have the money to do that, but probably the capacity is more of an issue, having someone to do it. But we signed up for weekly serial testing, and we do that at the volunteer over at the observatory on Thursdays. That's a little shaky getting started, but we could expand that to a couple days a week, which you could test back in, and we could run tests ourselves. We kind of did that last year, but then they didn't accept the test when we did it because they were BINEX at that time, and they didn't accept BINEX. Now they do if you take them every 3 days or whatever. Realistically, right now, we all have, in fact, we've all asked for that. We're all looking for that. So right now, it isn't the money. There are no tests, and there are not capacity to do it. And so those are the two things. But the state is working on that. That's like their #1 issue. And many schools have asked that, including myself. Is that a possibility? We could do it maybe on a limited basis. But we, right now, the tests that we ordered in December are not here yet, and they're supposed to be there the next week. And so they're saying February, that's a possibility. That's what I got from actually Katie Anthus, the commissioner, yesterday, I think, is that is their huge priority, and it could possibly be February. that's why I kind of need this ESSER person to follow up on all that stuff, do all the paperwork for those things. Those things are just a nightmare to keep track of because they change daily. But yes, it is something we're definitely looking at, something that I have my name in on. We're already have some capacity for it, but it is not a reality right now.
Okay, yeah, and I was definitely like thinking long-term, not
Right.
necessarily, I know the bottlenecks and stuff that are going on right now.
Yeah.
I think that's just evidence that, be it COVID or some other huge thing, that constant getting the kids back in school, your teachers in school, like back in. And we can't have continuity of operations if the stakeholders can't be in the building, right? So, yeah, okay,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely something I think, and and they just kind of proved that it worked too. That came out as in December as a big thing, and we all go, yeah, let's do it. And then we kind of hit this new phase that taxed everybody's resources pretty heavily. So,
One thing I'd like to add or to humbly request that we take a look at district-wide, well, especially elementary school, with ESSER funds and with the discussion of increasing preschool, to look at early identification of learning disabilities. And of course, that opens up the dam when you do that, and it just snowballs from there. The more people that you have identified with a learning disability, the more intervention that you need, and the more testing, and all of that. But I think that is a huge need that we have the ability to at least begin to address with some ESSER funds and learning loss. And would really like to encourage the board to take a look at that.
Yeah, we have our child find and our screeners that we have now, and I think that is something that it's doubled or tripled than we're used to. So that means there's more of a need to do more probably of the screening that we do. We've had showed a huge increase, and we know the impact that's going to have on us for the next few years. So yeah, I think anything we can do there to catch that earlier, as you know, and intervene earlier, the better off we are and the less resources it takes later.
And the better outcomes that we have
Right, the
with
better
people doing well in school and graduating and being successful. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, we know that there's a increasing need there, and we're looking at even adding another preschool in our own school next year if we can. Space then becomes sort of a problem and all the rules that go along with that, but we are definitely exploring that. They're guaranteeing me that they're going to streamline the rules when they go from 2 agencies regulating to 1, but I'm always skeptical of that.
Yeah, I'll keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah. Anything else that you would like me to explore or report back on?
What's the status on what happened with the CDE with the elementary school, the visitation?
Sure. I wish this meeting was next week, but that's okay. Still great news. We were accepted by CDE. They are recommending us for, reconsideration. The CDE recommendation is based on a body of evidence, a pathway submitted by the district. The team that came in on December 1st and 2nd, I believe, and all the data that we spent sending them for months, came up with that we provided strong performance data and nationally normed local assessments and state assessments, provided a quality implementation plan, and demonstrated implementation of improvement plan as evidenced by the external review team that observed and interviewed staff and students on December 1st and 2nd. So that is the recommendation that is going to the State Board of Education. So CDE has approved us moving from priority improvement to improvement. But the state board will have to vote on it on Wednesday at their state board meeting. We're optimistic that they won't go against the recommendation of CDE, but until that's done, we we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're excited. It was a great experience. And we have some really good input from that team to help our school and improve more and work on depth of knowledge and some of those things. So not only was it congratulations to the elementary, awesome job of the work they've done and recognize that and all the people gathering all the information for that, but also gives us some good direction to do better in the future. So a win-win situation. We just hope that the state board adopts it.
Good. All right.
One additional question I had is, I read something just recently that there was going to be more discussion, thought about high school principal in January.
Mhm.
You have an update for that?
I'll be making a recommendation to the board in the next few days on our next step on that. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't really talked to them yet, so I hate to talk to you guys first. I need to put this meeting after a board meeting, so yeah.
More to come. Thank you.
Yeah, I do have a plan, and that will be, my recommendation will be before end of January.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I don't think. What do you think, Blake?
I think I've had enough questions for today.
I appreciate it. It's all great questions. We need more of that, and definitely helps that feedback to help us think. So definitely appreciate all your questions, Blake, and everybody else's input.
Thank you. And I had a list of questions after the last school board meeting. And I thought, where do I ask those? There's not really necessarily a question and answer part of DAAC, just general questions. It very much is agenda driven. But I thought, well, that's really the place for that and to have those discussions because you can't really do it anyplace else. So thank you. I appreciate you.
At any time, anytime you want to send me questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
I know you will.
With any parent, you can express that to any parent. I answer a lot of emails, but good questions are the fun ones to answer. So, and feedback are fun ones to answer. So I'd appreciate those always.
Well, and that's how we learn too. So it gets going. Well, Blake, you want to close us out?
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting early this evening? We can stay.
Motion to adjourn the meeting early.
Don't get to say that very often. That's awesome.
Good. And a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Meeting is adjourned for today.
Oh, wait a minute, you need to take
Thanks,
a vote. Take a vote.
Thank you, Beth.
Go for it, Blake.
All right. But would you
So we have a motion to
adjourn the
adjourn.
meeting? Yes.
Yeah, and all those in favor, thumbs up.
Thank you, Beth. Meeting is adjourned.
And I think that hit everybody.
Right.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.